Howdy, y'all. How you doing? Welcome to the EEARSS podcast produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. I am Frank. That is Bill, and that is Cindy. How's it going, guys?
Yeah.
It's
I
funny.
thought you were going to mess it up.
I went a different direction with the entrance there.
You
that
did.
I think I'm legit that tired. My brain's scrambled. I don't know what's going on. Holy
Because
moly.
you know when you do that, Cindy doesn't like it. She doesn't like it when you go out of order.
I don't like change.
That's true.
I appreciate that you pointed at me when you said Bill.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to have a little bit of fun with it, but at the same time, do I always say your name first, or do I always say Bill's name first?
No,
you always say me first.
Do I really?
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
I'm thinking alphabetical order, maybe.
Boy, you are.
I
This
really
is gonna
don't
be
know.
A unique interview.
I don't know.
I can't wait.
For those of you who don't know, Frank has been in St. Augustine for the past few days catching alligators at the alligator farm, which you think would be easy because they're all right there. You don't have to really go traveling for them because the study that they're doing, they need a control group. And the alligator farm is a perfect control group because, you know, they're the alligators that you know what they're eating, you know what they have been eating for years now. And so they're using him as a control group. So he's been wrestling and moving these gators around. And poor Frank is beat. He is absolutely wiped out. And so he's going to try and do this show. So if he gets all weird,
weirder than normal, Bill, is that what you're saying?
Yes, weirder than normal, yes.
Yeah, it's been a long couple of days, but an awesome couple of days. You know, we normally start just after 8 o'clock in the morning. We catch till about 11, so you're trying to catch as many animals as you can in that short amount of time. And we're grabbing blood, we're grabbing morphological measurements, and we're grabbing we're grabbing 4 vials of blood out of about 12 mLs. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So we grab that blood, we get all the measurements, we weigh them, we carry them back into the pen where they came from, let them loose, and then do it again as quick as you can. So I was telling Cindy, it's like deadlifting alligators all day long.
Okay.
And they're not giants, but they're not small. You know, they're about 7 feet. So each one of them weighs probably about 80 pounds. And once you do that over and over and over again, our guest understands how to do this in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, this is a little bit
To
different.
the average person, that is a giant.
How long does it take before they start figuring out, hey, wait a minute, we don't want to be near this dude?
He's
Well,
coming
it's
for
funny.
us.
This area these guys are in, they call it the Northern Territory. They're at St. Augustine, and it's a giant enclosure. It's probably an acre, maybe a little bit over an acre. It's a big enclosure. They have a pond that kind of runs up through terrain where it goes from low to high, like up a hill. Which it's crazy to say it's a hill in Florida, but it's a legit hill. And whenever you catch one, he runs his way back to the pond, and then you watch each one of them. They'll look over their shoulder, see where you're at, jump out of the pond, and walk as far away as they possibly can to the corner.
Because they know it's coming.
Yeah, they're like, okay, if we stay over here, maybe he won't mess with us again.
Maybe he can't see us over here.
And we paint each one of them with a little bit of cattle paint, so we don't catch them again and harass them again.
Right.
So it's very entertaining. But
How's our friend?
Chance? We will be catching Chance tomorrow. So we'll catch old Chicago boy tomorrow and use his blood for the same study. I looked at him yesterday and today, so he's like, this guy's here 2 days in a row. This is not normal. I only see him every couple of months. Why is he here 2 days in a row? Oh yeah, they're not idiots by any means. They understand what's going on. But yeah, it's been a lot of work, but we're almost done with this year's stuff. We'll finish up there tomorrow, and I'll come back home Friday night because I'm whooped today. I'm gonna travel back up there real early tomorrow morning, and I'm not gonna make that drive twice in a day.
No, you don't want to do that. That's not driving when you're tired. That's not a good idea.
I was so excited about our guest today that there's no way I was gonna miss this. There was no way I was gonna miss this interview.
I've read the stuff and looked at the reels. She's very impressive.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't be more excited. I'm pretty excited. You ready to jump into this?
Sure, let's do it.
So today on the podcast, we are joined by the one and only Heidi Moneymaker. Heidi, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be on with you legends.
Yikes, I'm not sure what to do with that, but I'll take it in stride.
Yeah.
Heidi, me and you met on the set of Fly Me to the Moon.
That's right.
Yep.
At NASA.
Yep. When I was supposed to be keeping you guys away from alligators, but yet I was still taking you guys out and showing you alligators. Yes, that was that.
Well, yeah, of course, between you and me and the other stunt guys who are all about going towards the danger.
I was like, really, I was supposed to be doing that, but if you guys want me to, then I guess you could probably talk me into it. Yeah, we could probably work
Don't
out.
tell anyone, but we want to meet an alligator.
So tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you got into it.
So let's see, I am a stunt woman. I am a stunt coordinator, fight coordinator, and now director. So I work in action and film. My preference is action comedy, but I do a lot of serious action as well. And I got into the business over 20 years ago. I was a really competitive gymnast, and I got a scholarship to UCLA and was competing for UCLA and met some people from the gymnastics team that had retired from gymnastics and had gotten into the film industry. So I thought, oh, it might be kind of a fun way to make a little extra cash, flipping around. And then year or two goes by, and now I'm riding motorcycles and crashing cars, and it's my career.
Tell us a little bit about the evolution of that, right? So you're a top tier gymnast. It's like that first little peek into this world that you're in now. What was that like? What were you doing, and how did it evolve?
Well, I think actually prior to my thinking I were going to get into the film industry, a gymnast friend of mine named Chase Penny happened to be really good family friends with a stuntman named Keith Campbell. And Keith had been around for a long time. I was doubling Tom Cruise at the time and a bunch of other big actors. And so I got to know him as a friend and kind of learned about what stunts was and what the industry was like through him. A couple of years later, I started talking to some other teammates they basically kind of transitioned in a way where they would go and double somebody when they needed a gymnast, so that's kind of how you'd get into the Screen Actors Guild and get on to set in the first place. And that was my first few jobs, was going in. I did a couple of Nickelodeon shows, doing bar routines. I did some Disney shows, a film called Frank McCluskey CI, which took, he's undercover in this gymnastics competition. So I'm, doing bar routines and the like of that. And then through that, I met other people in the industry and kind of got to know them, and we would train together. So I'd learn other things, different kinds of wire moves and acrobatics, stuff with fire we'd train sometimes. I got a little dirt bike, and I used to go out to my friend Clay Cullen's place. He had a little mini track, and he'd let us ride out there. Then I got a street bike, just kind of, there's a slow evolution of like meeting people and training and trying things. And I'm scuba certified, and I do, underwater work when it's necessary. But, in training scuba, I realized like that's not really my favorite thing to do. I prefer to be, riding a motorcycle or, flipping around and that kind of stuff. But you tend to be all arounder anyway, just so that anytime anyone calls you, you can perform what they need you to perform.
Wow.
I'm terrified. Everything I'm hearing terrifies me.
I'm trying to think of where to even go with this. Holy moly! It's so deep.
I want to, she just kind of glossed over that she was a gym.
Yeah.
I read your bio, where you won an NCAA championship all 4 years you were at UCLA.
Yeah,
you were more than just a little gymnast. You were probably pretty dedicated to your sport. I mean, did it at that time? When you were done with university, was that pretty much going to be the end of your gymnastic career, or was there a place that you could go from there?
So you are correct. I lived, breathed, dreamed, everything gymnastics since I was about 5 years old. That's all I wanted to do. And I wanted to go to the Olympics, and it was my life and my dreams and my goals and the whole thing. And I didn't make an Olympic team, but I ended up at UCLA, and I ended up, while I was at UCLA, seeing as the NCAA competition season is a little bit offset from the US, elite competition season. I was able to do, for a couple of those years, I was able to do the NCAA season, and then in the summer I could go to US championships and, do some international meets for the US, which was really, really great and fun for me. Exhausting, but fun. And right around the time that I was getting ready to graduate, or I guess it was right before that, because they give you a 5-year scholarship, because with most sports you redshirt your first year because you're not as strong of an athlete. Well, for gymnastics, it's kind of the other way around. So we compete for 4 years, and then we have kind of our redshirt year on the tail end. So that's when I started, I got a commercial agent, and I started doing some little stunts and commercials and things here and there. And I was actually really, the day I graduated from college, it was really sad. I was really bummed out because this had been, 21, I guess, at the time, or 22, however old you are. And, it was just this thing that was my passion and my life love was going to be gone. And so I was actually quite sad and depressed about it. And, the thought of I could stick around for another 3 years and train and see if I could make an Olympic team or a world team or whatever and keep going. But, in my head, I thought, well, and then you're 26, 27, then you're starting your life, and I sort of made the decision that no, it's probably time. Like at some point I'm going to have to let this go. At some point I'm going to have to move on. So I kind of started doing stunts on a whim, but it actually gave me the opportunity to find something very similar. I could still train a lot of acrobatics. I started learning how to all different kinds of martial arts, learning film fighting. I could train and work and have these goals and perform similarly in the way I had in the past. So sort of gave me a little bit of a replacement, if you will.
Now I've worked, I've taught television production now for about 30 years, and I came to it because they needed somebody to teach it, and I had done some other work in the past. It was not my major. So I have worked freelance out in the field with different people in the industry, and I have always found that people in the film and television industry are very receptive, and I always found people that were willing to teach me things. Have you had that similar experience?
Oh yeah, I mean, here's the thing: none of us, and this probably is something in life as well, but none of us, and none of the people that I work with or have spent time with in any way got there on their own. There's always somebody teaching you, helping you, working with you, and I do the same thing too for younger people when they come along here and there, and part of that is giving back, and part of that is keeping yourself going with things as well. You learn from other people as well, so that's definitely something that I've found in the film industry, that it's sort of that you can't get in without knowing somebody, but you can't meet anybody until you're in. So there is a community where we understand that,
Yeah, that's pretty special. It's I have people that I mentor now, and between coaching and being able to mentor interns, that's pretty much my jam.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't think of a whole lot that means more than to bring somebody along into a profession. That's pretty special. Those that do it are, they're beyond amazing.
Incredible.
Your career so far, you've done like I said, like Bill said here earlier, your bio is it's so nuts in such a great way. You've done so many things and been on so many sets. And
I was looking at your IMDb.
It's crazy awesome. Yeah, it's crazy awesome.
Thank you.
What's been some of your favorite things to do so far? Maybe some things you took on and you went, this is going to be pretty straightforward, and there was maybe a lot more to it. Challenges maybe you overcame going through some things?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I could mention right now. I mean, one of the things that I did to this day that's my most favorite stunt I've ever done was there's a movie called The Host, and an opportunity came up for the girl that I was doubling where they need this car to flip. They're going to do a cannon roll in this car, and I had never done one before, and the coordinator, who is Sam Hargrave, who is now directing and doing a bunch of other stuff, but at the time, came to me and said, would you like the opportunity? And I thought, well, geez, yeah, because you don't get these very often. And there's not a ton of women that, get these opportunities. So I said, yeah, absolutely. And so, it's one of those things where there's a lot of factors there. One, it's very dangerous. Two, if you don't do it right, you can easily just completely ruin the shot and waste all this money. And three, you only get a certain number of takes before you're done. And you absolutely don't ever want to hurt yourself or anybody else. So there's a lot writing on it. So I just went and did the best thing I could do, because it's really hard to rehearse something like that, unless you want to spend the money to try to figure out how to get a car and build a cage and do all these things. So I went to New Hampshire, and I did this rally school that was really great. I went back and repeated a couple of the stunt driving schools with Rick Seaman that I had done a few times. I did a bunch of private lessons, and it was really just making sure that I was more, as comfortable as possible behind the wheel. And so, yeah, on the day, it all worked out. We only needed to use one car. Car flipped 4 times. I was okay. Everyone else was okay. They got the shot. And I just remember the moment of hitting the button, because the cannon, there's a couple different ways you can flip a car. One's a pipe ramp, and you kind of drive up onto this ramp and it flips your car. This is it's sort of an air pressured cannon. It has a dowel in it, and so when you hit this button,
Yeah, when she says dowel, she's talking about a telephone pole.
Yeah, basically it's a telephone pole. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it launches through the bottom of the car into the ground. So the leverage of that pushes your car up and over. So it's hard to rehearse something like that. But either way, it was. I remember when I hit that button, I was up in the air. It was like all of a sudden time slowed down, and I was flying in the air. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I can't believe it feels like slow motion right now. And then it almost felt like a speed ramp to the point where I hit. So when the car, it flipped up in the air and landed on the driver's side top portion of the windscreen. And I just remember going in slow motion, and then I ramped up as if I went to super speed and smacked the ground so hard. And it's that thing where the first time you ever do that, you realize like, wow, it's hard to explain how hard that hit is. That first connection with cement, But yeah, one of the most amazing, thrilling, and to this day my favorite stunt I've ever done.
Is every day like a new bump and bruise when you're doing this stuff? I mean, that's a legit.
Yeah.
I speak because my every day is kind of a little bit of the same. But is every day like a new bump and bruise, and you kind of go, I'm not really sure where I got that from, but I can tell you how I got it. I'm just not sure where in the point I got it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You go through cycles where when you're on a long film and you're fighting a bunch, you're falling a bunch, you're getting smacked into things, your body starts to get that thing where you become a little more immune to feeling pain and stuff. So you're constantly getting bumped and bruised and banged around, and it's really not a big deal. But if you take a little pause for a while, it's like the first time you fall down, all of a sudden you go, whoa, I'm awake. Ow, that hurt. So yeah, it's kind of like that every day, depending what you're doing or what you're working on. And you just kind of get used to that being your norm, and you almost crave it. We're a little bit of an interesting breed, probably much like Frank, wanting to chase after alligators.
we all have our things. All right.
Yeah.
Whenever you got done with college and you're done with your gymnastics career, what did your family think whenever you started making the change over to being a stunt person?
I think they thought it was a smart and kind of natural progression of what I might do. Like, I don't think they ever thought about it until I started doing it. But then I think everyone's realizing like, oh, this is kind of a nice rollover. And I know that for my parents, the reason I started gymnastics was because I was doing headers off of the top bunk bed when I was like 4 years old, 2, 3 years old. Just I would dive off of things. I was doing stunts before I did gymnastics. I was getting hurt. So they were very used to me constantly doing this, like whether it was in a gym. It's usually a controlled environment once I got a little bit older. But I think that they like to just put their feelings on a shelf when I go to work, as far as trying to think about what I'm doing, and I usually come home. Like, I don't think I told them I was flipping that car until I did it.
Good.
And it's like
That's
months
smart.
of preparation,
Yeah,
but I
that's
think
smart.
I didn't want to worry them,
And so, I mean, when you're doing a stunt like that one that you're talking about there, you talked about your training, mentally, physically, what are you training for to be able to walk away from something like that? What kind of physical training do you do every day to make all this feel like a normal bump and bruise? Is it special eating? Is there like a whole bunch to it?
Yeah, there's a few different aspects of it. I mean, I've always been a very health conscious person. My father was basically like a health guru. So from the time we were really little, he was growing wheatgrass and juicing for us, and he knows a lot about health. And so I kind of grew up in that sense, and I've always sort of been that way. So as far as like diet and that goes, I'm really pretty healthy in that sense, and I always have been. Training kind of depends what you're doing, right? So impact, like when you're used to impacting things, like we do a lot of judo. You get thrown to the ground a lot, and you kind of get used to getting banged around. Your body kind of gets used to like harder impacts. That's helpful. I think for an impact like that, and unless your muscles are really strong and you're kind of used to definitely muscular strength just to hold your bones in place and stuff, you might have an issue with something like that. But I think most of us in this industry, are very physically fit, have a lot of muscle that protects our bones, in that sense. So, also you're in a fire suit, a racing suit, a helmet, a neck brace. They have you in a 7-point, just cinched so tight that you can barely reach the steering wheel. So, we're taking all of these precautions, for an impact like that. In a regular car, I think I was going 45 when I did that, and with the 7-point harness and totally cinched in, and to feel that impact, it really made me think about everyone driving 80 on the freeway with just a seatbelt. I mean, you wouldn't have that kind of, your body wouldn't be able to withstand something like that in a regular seatbelt in a regular car, because the car itself might crumple in the first place, and your seatbelt's not going to hold you as tight in that seat. So there's partially some of that. And then, a lot, like, driving oddly can be a little bit hard on your body, stunt driving, because you're using two different kinds of brakes. You're using a foot brake and a hand brake, or another foot brake that's a hydraulic brake. You're steering, you're holding your body tight while you're doing all these maneuvers. So even just the preparation of the move prior, which is it's kind of, we call it a sliding 90 or a sliding 45. So, like, to get into the point where I can hit the button to launch the car, I've got to be driving at a certain speed. I have to get to a certain mark. I have to turn the car in a certain way. I have to lock up the brakes and get it to slide to a certain point and then hit the button. So that's a little bit of a finesse training at that point. And it's hard because your adrenaline's going, and you have to stay calm, not go too fast or go too far.
Do you find, I noticed this early in my career, I used to really enjoy that adrenaline pump. You get all shaky, and I haven't had that in a very, very long time. Do you find that you miss that? Or is that, you've been doing this for a long time now, do you still get that adrenaline pump every time? Or do you maybe just, you're a lot more calm now? I know my calmest times are always when I'm actually working with a dangerous animal. That's my calmest time. I've had things on my heart, looking at rhythms and stuff, and doctors always ask me, like, what were you doing then? I was catching an alligator then. Do you find that with what you do, doing it so long, that it actually makes you calmer now?
Yeah, I completely understand what you mean. So when I first started competing in gymnastics, I already had so much energy anyway that when I would get nervous and go to compete, it was very hard for me to harness that energy into one focal point. So I would fall off the beam a lot, and I would mess up a lot because I would just be so, excited, I guess. And it took me a minute as a young person, but once I figured out that in order to harness that energy, I had to find a way to take it, but be calm surrounding it and point it in one direction. So that you talking about being the calmest you are when you're catching a dangerous animal, I completely get that, because I go into a zone when it's time to do a stunt where you have your adrenaline and it's underlaying there, but you're at the same time you're breathing deeply and you're so extremely focused that it puts you into a state of calm. So I do understand that. I love that. I miss that when I'm not doing silly things. But there was a point where I was performing for a long time, kind of doing very similar things and jumping up. And I remember I think I might have been on, like, Avengers Endgame or something like that, and I was having a hard time getting nervous or getting adrenaline or getting, it's like cameras would be rolling, I'd be getting ready to do something, and I'd be like, another day, So I think that variety in my world is really good for me. Doing different things and doing different things that are challenging. I think that's probably what it mostly was, is I was doing stuff that I'd done so many times that it wasn't challenging anymore, wasn't nervous to mess it up.
Now, I know you double for Scarlett Johansson, and I'm sure a lot of others also. What they must absolutely just think the world of you, I imagine, for doing this stuff, and being able to pull off these stunts and make it look seamless, like they're doing these things. What are those interactions like?
Well, Scarlett and I first started working together in 2009 on Iron Man 2. And I think that we had about 6 weeks with her to train her, and she was really, really into it and really dedicated, wanted to really, do a great job, which she really did. So we had a little concentrated time to train together and work together and get to know each other. So from that point, moving on to the next few films, we had a rapport, and we got each other. I would choreograph for her, and I would set things up because I knew her strengths and I knew what she liked to do, what she didn't like to do. We kind of had that seamless rapport, so she could kind of just come in and know that I was going to set something up that was going to work for her. She could train really hard, but she didn't have to do a guessing game with a new person or anything. So I think as far as that goes, we have a really good system in place. And I know that she does appreciate how I perform for her. And, you know, honestly, Fly Me to the Moon was really wonderful because it was the first time that I had stunt coordinated and fight coordinated and all that before and directed before, but not for her, not with her. So when Fly Me to the Moon came around and she wanted me to stunt coordinate it, you know, the producer said, hey, you know, you're going to double her, right? Yeah, of course. I mean, she had a little bit of driving. She didn't have a ton of stuff to do. But that was a really cool experience to be designing the movie, the action of the movie, and especially her pieces while performing and being kind of in charge of all of that kind of stuff. It was a really cool, you know, cornucopia of stuff that we had going on.
There was a lot of. I was amazed by how much is actually going on behind the scenes on one of those movies and the set building. And I just sat there with my jaw dropped the entire time, as watching everything go down and people doing their jobs and just like, what? And this is amazing.
It was a pretty special set, especially, you know, being at NASA and having the experience of being in this historical, incredible place and being able to film there in these actual locations and see, you know, we had I don't know if it was a Tesla rocket that went off, or we had a couple rocket launches while we were there, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, a lot of SpaceX, a couple SpaceX rockets went off while you guys were there.
Yeah, and I think normally a movie set, it's different every time. That's kind of the cool thing about our industry, right? It's like there's never no, even if you're doing a similar stunt, it's always different. There's a different person involved. There's a different building involved. There's a different thing. So, you know, usually it's cool to travel around and work on different sets and different locations, but that one was just pretty spectacular.
Now, you've started off as a stunt woman. You said you're now you've directed some stunts, set up stunts for people, and now you're working your way to the next step up to directing. Tell us a little bit about that and what that evolution of that's been like.
So I think, you know, as much as it's nice to be involved behind the scenes, and I think that I do a pretty good job of it, I've always been a performer and I've always been a ham in front of camera. So it's, you know, for me, going into the stunt coordinating world is great. It's just not my creative end goal. Before I got into stunt coordinating, I was kind of fight coordinating, and before I was fight coordinating, I was choreographing fights and shooting and editing on my own, just kind of trying to figure it out and see what I thought about things. So for a while, me and my friends at the 8711 networks, all us kids, we would just shoot little short films. Some of them were not really good. Some of them were okay. A couple of them were, you know, pretty good. So it's always been in my blood to act, perform, to direct. So anyway, long story short, I did a couple of movies, second unit directing, like Fly Me to the Moon. I was one of the second unit directors. Hawkeye, the TV series, I got to shoot a bunch of additional photography and do some second unit, a bunch of fights and stuff, which was really fun. But, you know, it's one of those things in our industry where, you know, it takes a long time to really get a real chance to direct or do something big. And it makes total sense because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of people writing on you, and people have to know that you're up for it. So last August, I think we wrapped Thunderbolt, the Marvel film Thunderbolt, and I knew we were going to have some time off and the industry was going to slow down a bit. And I said, you know, I'm going to direct something because I want to put something out there and show that I'm actually a good director, not just action, not just second unit. Like I actually, you know, am a director, because it's going to take me way too long, you know, getting up there in age, it's going to take me way too long to, you know, to fight my way through these jobs to get the second unit, you know. So anyway, I wrote and directed a short film called Fort Valor, and it was just an amazing, really fun project. It's action comedy. I can't wait for it to be released. I have a completion date of December 30th, and then I think we're doing a screening, and then we're gonna submit it for a bunch of festivals. So I'm very, very, very excited about it. But that one, going back to your earlier question about, did you ever take on a challenge and then realize, like, oh my gosh. Because,
what have I done?
We actually we ended up making, it was a SAG short film. We had a full real film camera crew, DP, the whole thing. So there was just the logistics of everything that went into it. So, you know, writing, directing, producing, everything at once, was a handful, but so worth it.
So, we have a lot of kids that listen to this program. We have we do this at a high school, at my old high school. If there's a young person, maybe a young lady growing up that has a desire to one day do what you do, what is some advice you can give them, and just some helpful hints?
Sure. I mean, usually when I talk to somebody, I try to get an assessment of their background so I can give them the best advice. But for a blanket statement here, I think I would say that number one, there's so much opportunity out there, and now that everyone's making a lot of their own content, there's opportunity to get a lot of practice and get yourself out there. One of the things I would suggest, assuming that you have a bit of an athletic background, and this is a good idea to get into stunts, I would say judo is one of my first recommendations, and the reason is that you learn how to roll, you learn how to flip, you learn how to be thrown, you learn how to fall, and those are really important things to being a stunt person. So I would find a really good judo school, and I would start training in judo. If you can, if there's a gymnastics gym nearby, or a tricking gym or parkour gym, I would go there too, because acrobatics are really huge, even if you're not doing a flip or gymnastics in a scene. Like oftentimes if you get hit by a car, or if you get rashed into a wall, all these things, sometimes you need really good air sense so that you land on your feet, you land safely. So those are two places I would start training wise. There's also something called the Stunt Contact, which is stuntcontact.com, and you can subscribe to this website. And it's fairly inexpensive. I forget what it is per month, but it's not super expensive. But they basically twice a month, they'll send you a breakdown of all the films and television shows that are going on around the world. And they give you the stunt coordinator, the address of the office, they give you some information about the actors in it and whatnot. And I would say if you're serious about it and you're starting to train and do these things, like paying attention to that, finding in your city, if there's a movie coming there or TV show, submitting, even if you're brand new, even if you've got nothing but a photo of yourself and in a bio saying, I want to get involved. It's nice to get your name out there and let people know that you're, getting involved. And then I would try to reach out to people like myself on social media and see if you can get someone to answer you or talk to you or mentor you, because that's actually really helpful. And I'm happy to have any of your students reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, and I try really hard to make sure I'm keeping up with messages and things like that. And recently I've been asking if anybody wants me to put, create content that they would like to see, whether it's learning how to flip or whatever it is. So I would feel anybody that wants to reach out to me, I will do my best to find you and get back to you.
That's beyond special is what that is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
so I have one question.
yeah.
What is tricking?
Oh, tricking. So do you know what parkour is?
I do.
It's like so it's basically what the kinds of flips and things that those who do parkour perform. So they're kind of off axis, one leg kicking, spinning tricks that you would then maybe do off of a roof or onto something.
I'm laying in a little pile just thinking about it.
Yeah, broken.
Yeah, I mean, if you go onto Instagram or YouTube or whatever and just hit tricking videos, you'll see all sorts of cool stuff.
Okay,
And
I'll
they have
check that
tricking
out.
competitions and stuff now. Yeah, it's actually quite cool.
Heidi, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with us. This has been
Absolutely.
I've been so excited about this interview the second you said you'd do it. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a very busy person, has a million things going on, and we couldn't appreciate them any more. And I hope you have 3 huge fans here, and we're just
Absolutely.
super excited to chat with you. Really, this has been awesome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. It's so wonderful to meet people such as yourself doing really amazing, interesting things. It's really fun for me to get to know other people in similar industries.
We think the same, believe me. Thank you, Heidi. We appreciate you a bunch, and we'll catch up with you here soon. We'll put this up here probably next week. So I'll make sure we tag you and everything in it.
Yeah, wonderful, and I'll repost and all that good stuff.
All right, appreciate you, Heidi. Thank you so
Okay,
much, and we'll
sure.
catch up with you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Wow. I'm not sure I have the verbiage to really articulate what is on my mind on how
She is
amazing she is.
awesome.
Yeah, what a neat lady. Done so much has so many cool things ahead of her, obviously, but just hearing her talk about how she does what she does, it just with one trick is just with one stunt is incredible.
Oh yeah, yeah, and going into directing and doing those kinds of things.
Remember you asking George Wendt that back in the day about directing?
Yes. Well, because
him talking about the dynamics and how difficult it really is to
and
get into that.
And he didn't enjoy it. I mean, he only directed one thing.
Yeah.
And I was curious as to why, and he said basically it was because somebody was sick and they needed somebody to do it.
Yeah, it wasn't his first choice.
So I stepped up to do it. But yeah, because directing, you got
to wear a lot of hats, right?
Well, yeah, you have to deal with actors. So you have to deal with tradesmen, people who are building sets and hanging lights, and then you've got the technical crew. There's all different kinds of personalities that you have to deal with, and it takes a very unique person to do that, to be able to deal with all of those different kind of people.
I think she's a pretty unique person.
It sounds that way.
Yeah.
It sounds that way.
I think she fits the profile.
Yep.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about her directing huge things in the next few years.
I think so. I think it could be.
Yeah, it's not far-fetched at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't think I have any more superlatives to throw at her. I mean, I have tons of them, but my vocabulary is running dry because I'm very tired. So we should probably end this before I throw a weird superlative
before you do something weird.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to the EEARSS podcast produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. If you'd like to learn more about EEARSS, you can go over to EEARSS.org.com or alligatorrobb.com. Robb has 2 B's. It's actually my last name, not my first name. People still throw out, "Hey, Robb." I'm like, well, that is part of my name, but it's not R-O-B, it's R-O-B-B. It's very confusing. Yes, I do have 2 first names. I'm not a Fruit Loop. I'm defending myself for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But anyhow, if you guys would like to learn more about EEARSS, go over there and check us out. And don't forget EcoFest coming up May 23rd in Cocoa Village. We'll catch you all next week. Bye-bye.